Now we'd like to start the session. From here on, our topic is ESG. We heard of it a little bit earlier, but environment, social, and governance, that will be the topic for this session. As you might have shared, for the long-term business growth, ESG is going to be critical. Such a concept is now being shared globally. GSIA, Global Sustainable Investment, according to them, as of 2018, 14 trillion is the size of ESG investment, 12 trillion in the US. In Japan, the number is a little bit smaller, 2.18 trillion yen. But the growth of ESG investment is accelerating in Japan. And yet, compared to the West, Japan is lagging behind. Now, if you pursue ESG, that means for all the stakeholders, it's going to be successful. So, based on such an understanding, we'd like to move on with our discussion. First of all, each one of the panelists, who are prominent people in each sector, do you take this as an opportunity or a threat? And what's the reason? Mr. Tashiro, if you could, excuse me, Ms. Tashiro, if you could start. Thank you, I'm Tashiro. Let me answer that from two viewpoints. First, we are a securities company, so an opportunity for the securities industry is, of course, ESG needs from customers is growing year by year. Therefore, what kind of investment opportunities we can provide, not just for investing institutions, but for individual investors, that will bring us a huge opportunity. The other perspective is the risks. As an industry, well, we cannot offer such products, or even if there is a need for capital funding, if we cannot find accepting investors, it's not a risk just for the industry, but also for the entire country. That will be a huge risk. The other point is, we are a middleman as a securities company, not just for Japan, but globally. We want to promote Japan for a place to invest. And for the Japanese companies, in terms of capital funding, we want to introduce them to global investors. There is competition that we need to tackle with. So with a limited amount of money, how can we secure any amount of that? That will give us an opportunity as well as risks. Thank you. Next, from Konica Minolta, President Yamana. As you pursue ESG, your company, from the top executive, where do you see an opportunity and risk? When it comes to ESG, they are not separate things, but ESG combined, excuse me for that, ESG business management, it is something that's exactly the company's business policy. An opportunity in terms of business management strategy. It leads to development of new businesses. For example, we are now living in the robotics, AI, 5G, big data, IoT era. For example, as you pursue digitalization, we are in the manufacturing sector. Manufacturing will change. Producing mass production, mass consumption, and mass disposable will be old, and we will change to limited manufacturing only when it's needed and limited consumption. So technologies will transform completely manufacturing. That will bring us an opportunity socially and environmentally. People start to have new motivation. On the digital side, mass customization will accelerate. So personalized healthcare and nursing care will be promoted. So to tackle with the shortage of workers, not just pursuing high efficiency and productivity, but encourage individual people to act, play a more active role. And that will be supported by technology. So innovation is not just innovation of technology. It's about how to create values, not the value economically or business-wise, but a value together integrated with societal values. So that will give us a huge opportunity, I believe. On the risk side, it's the other side of a coin. It has to take root in the field. The top executives need to really believe in ESG, not just a mere slogan, because people in the field must fully understand it, and then only then that will give the companies an opportunity. Secondly, it's a CEO matter to think of. However hard the top executives are pressured, we have to stick to this core belief. We should not sway. Otherwise, we will run into a risk. He talked about a short-term vision. In terms of ROE, it's one of the indices in terms of stocks. But ESG had some correlation with ROE, according to some people. In our internal data, ESG disclosure data we have compared against ROE in terms of a graph and chart. If you look at it, the green and white lines, you see some correlations. ROE or in pursuing ESG, you will benefit in terms of ROE. This is one example of that. Sorry that I didn't say this, but these are indices of Konica Minolta.
Okay, so let's move on to thank you for coming to Tokyo. I'd like to ask you the risks and the chances in pursuing ESGs from your point of view, especially given that you have vast global business background.
Well, thank you for having me. So I operate in my company. Melco operates in the global hospitality sector. So from just to put things in perspective, from a ESG standpoint, our daily food waste at one of our cities in Macau, for instance, it's over 200 kilograms. So that's just one city a day in terms of food waste that we get rid of. So there is a significant opportunity for the industry. The industry that I'm in, integrated resorts and hospitality, is really going in reverse. And Melco is very different because we are a 21st century company and we're really focused on generations to come rather than looking at a 5-10 year horizon. So there's a lot to be done, and a lot of people in our industry likes to talk about it. But I think the important thing is, what can we do about it? And so, for instance, Melco, as of 2019, we've eliminated all single-use plastic in all of our employees' areas. And by 2020, we're going to phase out all single-use plastics, even in guest ideas. And the philosophy that we have is that if we can inspire our guests to be more responsible and social, we're moving in the right direction. And we're the first company in our industry to join the UN Ellen MacArthur campaign to eliminate single-use plastics. So there's a lot of single-use plastics is one aspect. I think in terms of sustainability, energy generation, as of 2018, we are using 100% recycled energy. And a lot of that is the solar panels that we've installed. So there's a lot to be done for many, many generations. And it's about how do we give back to the community that we serve. And so I think we meet with investors a lot. I think now is getting on the radar of investors, but I still think there's more to be done. I think when we talk about social responsibility and sustainability, investors are like, yeah, that's nice. But in terms of criteria of their investment, is still pretty low. But I think it's going in the right direction. And I think the more that key influencers can influence in the industry and stakeholders, they'll be positive for the future.
And I guess you'd like to reproduce what you've done in global cities in Japan.
Well, Japan is in my lifetime, the greatest opportunity. So our company operates in Macau, Australia, the Philippines, Cyprus, and London, England. And but there is no greater opportunity than Japan. And I've been lucky enough to be visiting Japan for the last 35 years, and I've witnessed the change in the environment. But what is constant has always been the dedication to quality and the dedication to culture. And so I think I was listening to the panel earlier on Olympics. It's, whether it's the Rugby World Cup, the Olympics, these events are introducing the world to this amazing country with its vast history and culture. So I think there's a lot more to come, because even the annual tourism right now, annual tourists coming into Japan is only around 35 million. That is really small compared to the sheer size of the country and how great it is. So I'm very positive on tourism in Japan, and an integrated resort. The opening of potentially the bidding for integrated resort is starting next year. So there's lots to be done.
こうしてですね、ESG を各社
In those manners, every company is pursuing ESG. What can be issues that they need to address? And how do you think we can address and solve those challenges and issues? First, let me go to Ms. Tashiro. I'm in charge of overseas business in Daiwa Securities, so I meet and talk with international investors. It's just my personal view, but Japanese companies since a long time ago, they talked about environment, mottainai, eliminating waste, and so on. So from Europe, for example, single plastic use is one good example. So people's awareness about those issues. As I go and visit Asian countries, people do not have such a great awareness. Even if they do something, they are just self-satisfactory. They have not expanded it globally.
I believe the company is not only the object, but also in the process of manufacturing. I think Japan is very particular about the process of the manufacturing, but I think that part is also not fully explained. So that is a kind of a waste or mottainai, and also the global criteria, like without Japan or without Asia, to establish the global criteria only in the Western countries will not be great, and it's unfortunate. And the GCFE's conference was held in Asia, and I think there was a revisit about this global criteria, so that the securities companies, not only the security companies, but also the general public as well as the other companies, vis-a-vis the environment, vis-a-vis the society, hope that they will be able to put forward some messages to this ESG, and that is going to be a one big theme for the companies. Well, Mr. Yamana, please. 2030 or then thereafter, when we consider about the society, I think we have to give some kind of insight and then to have a reverse calculations in order to consider what we have to do now. So the important thing is not to look into the future, but to consider what to do now for the climate changes. I think the management people have to really have to have a sense of urgency and to do some things now. I think that has to be really stressed. And also one company will not be able to do so. Therefore, I think we hope that it is very important to have a collaborations amongst the partners. Well, CO2 about 2050, like a minus 80% of the carbon deduction. I think it will be important not to only the decrease, but to have a minus carbon. So what shall we do? I think it is necessary to publicize the environment technology to all the investors and vendors. And well, yesterday we mentioned that. So to do that, I think we have to really have an environmental structure, and one company will not be able to do so. I think how we'll be able to accelerate that is very important. Another thing is that the ESG, in terms of the investment in company, well, we are making all our efforts, but I think the company have to have a long-term story, and then to have a value creation which is sustainable. So the non-financial information included, such as not only the P&L or the documents, but also in the various opportunity, we have to engage the people, to engage the investors, and then saying that, so that we have to send messages from the company, because say maybe there might be some criticism from the investors saying, oh, that's not quantifiable. And we have to be able to accept that, so that we would be able to enhance the level of sending messages out of the company. And I think that is very important for the engagement. So I think this has to be a face-to-face communications, and that kind of opportunity has to be increased in number. And also that there's an analyst, and I think the mid and long-term industry it's not about the certain sector of the industry. There's no sectors, so it's a kind of a cross-border in terms of the industrial sector and in terms of the country. So I think it will be very important to get all people together to consider about how to enhance the value. So industrial report will has to be communicated. And then the company has to engage with the investors. So there are some themes and challenges, but also we have to really move towards solving the challenges.
Thank you. So, obviously you have a bit more global exposure to, global investor exposure than, the other panels. And from your viewpoint, how do you think, this ESG issues can be solved? Like the conversation with investors, or how companies can send those messages to the market and so on, and how have you addressed those issues so far?
Well, I think for investors, they're looking for a return on investment, and I think I genuinely believe, I'm passionate about ESG and sustainability, but at the same time, most of the projects that we have undertaken do have a very good payback. It's like buying a electronic vehicle. Yes, the initial cost, the capex might be more, but over the long term, because you're saving on fuel, on a long-term basis, there's a great payback period. So on the single-use plastic that I talked about earlier on, there is a payback. Our investment in solar panels, there's an investment going forward with it. And so I think it's really just talking to the community and getting everybody to understand, all stakeholders, investors, the community, to know that yes, it's a great initiative, but at the same time, there is also a great payback for it. And I think with better government regulations globally, then 20 years ago, there would be zero payback. But now, with government initiatives and government support, I think there's more and more of that going forward. And again, environmental and sustainability is a very, very important aspect that we need to look for generations to come. And at the end of the day, I also operate in the integrated resort industry. And so equally important as well is how we address addiction and responsible gaming issues. And so rather than shying away from it as a company, we're very proactive in terms of making use of the latest in technology, facial recognition, biometrics, so that to help us and also to help our guests in terms of preventing addiction. So I think, again, it's all about how we give back to the community and to be a significant member of that community.
それではですね、ここでもうちょっと時間。
Then here, because we are running out of time, so we would like to open the questions to the floor. Rather, we would like to utilize the applications, the appli, and pose a question. This chart that you have seen at the outset, so that the ESG investment from Japan is increasing. So this year ahead, what do you think that the Japan's investment amount is going to be? Like the same level as 2018 is 2.18 trillion. So 2.18 trillion is at 2018 investment. So the less than 2.18 trillion, number one, or that between 2.18 trillion and 4 trillion dollars. And then the third is between 4 to 10 trillion dollar. And over 10 trillion dollar is number 4. So what's the size of the Japan's sustainable investing assets in 2020? We're looking at it. It seems close to 50%, between 2.18 trillion to 4 trillion dollar. That is what people are assuming. Mr. Tashiro, what do you think will be the range?
Between 4 trillion and 10 trillion.
Between 4 and 10.
日本語ですいません。
Okay, I will speak in Japanese. The reason? Well, I think considering the current growth, I think it can well be between this 2.18 and 4 trillion. And also, like in case of Japan, that there are a lot of people vividly or really feeling keenly about the climate changes. So I believe that this year and next year, there will be more needs of the investment because they are more keen to ESG. That's the reason.
I'm very bullish and I'm always very optimistic and bullish about Japan. So, and also I have a lot of respect for Keiko-san's opinion. So I would agree. It's 4 to 10 billion would be the bullish.
But okay. じゃあ山名さんいかがでしょう。
What about Mr. Yamana? Well, I think also number 3. So that the investment amount, whether the investment is going to be increased by the investors or is it company-led investment. So looking up to 2018 or 2020, I think that of course there will be more activity that is going to be done by the company. So the company-led investment is going to grow. So number 3 is my answer as well. So 2020, if you are in 2020, we think that we will know the answer. The key to it is, I think, all the people here, and then all the audience here in this venue, I believe. So thank you very much for the very inspiring discussion, and please send a big applause to the panelists.